Okay, Oak Rovers, this is going to be a video that's going to help you with the sequence unit you will begin today. For each of the problems, you will be asked to make a table where the y value is the actual sequence and the x value is where that number falls in the sequence. You will also be asked to make a graph, to give the equation, and to find the 30th number of the sequence. Let's get started with our first example. So the first sequence we're going to work with is the sequence 4, 8, and 12. Now a sequence is just a pattern of numbers. And if you look at that number, you can see the pattern is it's going up by 4 each time. So when I make a table for this problem, the first thing I'm going to do is give my x values. And I know the first number of the sequence is 4, so under 1, I'm going to put the number 4 down. The second number of the sequence is 8, so under 2, I'll put the number 8 down. The third number of the sequence is 12, so under 3, because it's the third number, I'll put the number 12 down. I'm going to continue this pattern until I get all the way up to 7. So the fourth number should just be 16, then 20, then 24, and then 28. Now as you can see, each of my numbers is going up by 4 each time. Now I've got to ask, what would have been the number that came before that 4? Well, since I'm going up by 4, 4 less than 4 will be 0. And that's how you're going to make your table for your sequences, just like what I've done right there. Now after you've done that, I like to ask myself, how is my sequence changing? And if I look here, between 0 and 4 I'm going up by 4. Between 4 and 8 I'm going up by 4. Between 8 and 12 I'm going up by 4. Between 16 and 20 I'm going plus 4. Between 24 and 28 I'm going up by plus 4. So my sequence is going up by 4 by changing by plus 4 each time. Now when I write this equation, since I'm going up by 4 each time, my equation is going to be y is equal to 4x. To find the 30th number in that sequence, all I'm going to do is take 4 times 30. And that should give me my 30th number. And in this case, 4 times 30 is 120. So my 30th number of this sequence is 120. Now the last thing I have to do is graph this sequence. Now if I look at the sequence, I know that 0, 0 is a point. I know that 1, 4 is a point. And I know that 2, 8 is a point. So I can just graph that line, and it's going to look something like this. Now this line is going to go on forever in both directions. So my line is going to go through the origin and it's going to look something like that. Okay, let's try the next sequence. The next sequence, the series of numbers is -6, -12, -18. So the first thing I do is I like to write down my x numbers. And I'm going to write them from 1 to 7. And then I'm also going to put 0 in there as well. Now the first number of the sequence is -6. So I'm going to put a -6 under 1. Then the second number of the sequence is -12. So I'm going to put a -12 under 2. The third number of the sequence is -18. So I'll put -18 under 3. Now this sequence, I'm going down by 6 each time. So I'm going to continue putting in the numbers all the way across until I get to the very end. Now, since I'm going down by 6 each time, I've got to figure, if I go backwards, I'm actually going up 6 each time. And what's 6 more than -6? And that's going to be 0. All the sequences we're going to work with today are going to have the point 0, 0 in them. So now let's see how this is changing. Now in this case, I'm going down 6 from one point to the next. Again, I'm going down 6 from one point to the next. I'm going down 6 from one point to the next. I'm going down 6 from one point to the next. And that is going to help me find my equation for this problem. Now since I'm going down 6 each time, I always write my y equals equation as y equals -6x. Now to find the 30th number for this one, I'm going to take -6 times 30 because I want to find the value of y when x is equal to 30. So if I do that, I'm going to get -6 times 30 is equal to -180. Now I've got to make a graph for that. So I know one point is 0, 0, and then I have 1, and my y is -6. So 0, 0 is going to be a point, and then I go over 1, and I got to go down -6, and that line should look like that. Now I have one more example to do, and then I'm going to have you guys work on your worksheet that you'll have today. So I'm going to go to the next page. Whoops, I got to kind of get it so it fits the screen. Now this sequence is with fractions. So my sequence is 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, and 3/3 is the same as 1. So I'm going to write down my x values. And again, just like before, my x values have got to go from 0 to 7. The first number in that sequence is 1/3. The second number is 2/3. Third number is 3/3. And I'm getting a third bigger each time, so the next number is going to be 4/3, 5/3, 6/3, and 7/3. That's how you make the table. And on each of these problems, you have to make that table. Now what's 1/3 less than 1/3? Well, that'll be 0. Again, all these graphs have the point 0, 0 in them. Let's see how this one's changing. From 0 to 1/3, I'm increasing by 1/3. From 1/3 to 2/3, I'm increasing by 1/3. From 2/3 to 3/3, I'm still increasing by 1/3. From 4/3 to 5/3, I'm increasing by 1/3. Now just like before, I'm going to see how much I'm increasing by, or the rate of change, and that's going to be in my equation. My equations always start out as y equals, so in this case it's going to be y equals a positive 1/3 times x. Now to find my 30th number, I'm going to take 1/3 times 30, because I want to find when x is equal to 30. This is my 7th number, my 6th number, my 4th number. So I'm going to take x times, or 1/3 times 30, and when I do that, I end up getting 1/3 times 30 is going to be equal to 30 over 3, which is equal to 10. So I know my 30th number in that sequence is going to be 10. Now again, I have to graph it, and I've already put this graph up here. So my graph should look something like this. Notice that my slope on this graph is positive, and notice that the point 0, 0 is one of them, and then I have a point of 3, 1, and then I should have another point of 6, 2. So all these points, because 6, when x is 6, my y is going to be 6 over 3, which is the same thing as 2. So guys, this is a video that should have helped you do the work, should have helped you be able to do the work today. If you have any questions, I'll have another video on tonight. But this is what you're going to do on your worksheet. Make sure that you copy down all these notes so you know how to do all these sequences. It should be very self-explanatory, and if you have any questions, make sure you ask the teacher.